In today's class, we would be, you know, discussing an uh, an exam question from uh, P3 business analysis. Now, that may not be directly the way you would be examined in your SBL exam, but the purpose of doing this question is to refresh the concepts and see how you would apply your knowledge. You should get some flavor of how you would be applying your knowledge to the exam question. Remember, we did another question on BCG matrix, and that was just meant to give you a flavor of how you would be applying your knowledge. So we're basically taking baby steps, just learning and consolidating our knowledge and understanding of the frameworks that are examinable in the SBL exam. So we're just doing, these are just baby steps meant to develop some application skills, but a more firmed up examination approach would be developed once we start the SBL exams. But these questions would be very helpful. We would be doing some questions as part of preparation for SBL, right? And also to further clarify your concepts. So this is a question that we would be doing in today's class. We would be focusing on just two parts of this question. One is part A and the other is part B. Now, part A says using appropriate models and frameworks. So it says using appropriate models and frameworks, analyze. Now look at the requirement verb, it's analyze. GET's current strategic position, GET's current strategic position from both an internal and external perspective. Now, to be honest with you, even if the question ended over here, current strategic position, even if this part from both an internal and external perspective is omitted, we already understand students should be able to appreciate this fact that when you're analyzing an entity's strategic position, because strategic position is shaped by both internal and external factors, so you have to consider both of them. To quickly take you to the lecture where we discussed this, remember strategic analysis, strategic position, and we talked about SWOT, which has both an internal perspective to it as well as an external perspective to it. So both the perspectives are considered when we're talking about, or when we're analyzing an entity's strategic position. So the question asks you to use appropriate models, frameworks to analyze, to evaluate the company's strategic position. That is its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you would be using SWOT and you would be using the other frameworks. For example, you could use PESTEL, you could use relevant elements of 5 forces, diamond, capabilities, value chain, maybe market segmentation. Now you would be using them only on a need basis. When I say only on a need basis, you would be needing them and you would be using them only the relevant factors. For example, maybe not all 6 aspects of PESTEL would be relevant here. Not all 5 forces would be relevant. Not all aspects of Porter's diamond may be relevant. Not all the capabilities may be relevant. Not all the elements of value chain may be relevant. So the point that I'm trying to identify is you would just pick up the relevant elements and you would talk about them, and you would comment on them to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the entity, as well as to determine what opportunities are coming from the external environment and what threats are there in the external environment that could create troubles for the entity. So this is the first requirement. The second requirement is GET's proposed strategy. Now this itself gives you a hint that it's a question on choices, because there's a proposal. Is firstly to acquire SOFR, there's something acquisition, and then the franchise to run the rail network of Kazakhstan you have been asked to provide an independent assessment of this proposed strategy. So you have been asked to assess this proposed strategy, and what exactly you've been asked to do? You've been asked to produce a report. You have been asked to produce a report which would evaluate GET's proposed strategy. So there's a strategy that is being proposed. Whether it has to be selected or not, before selecting a strategy, you're already aware of this fact that whenever entities have a strategic choice available, an option available, that has to be evaluated. And that has to be evaluated in accordance with the criteria. And what is that criteria? That's the SFA criteria, the suitability, feasibility, and acceptability criteria. Remember the SFA criteria, the criteria for evaluation of a strategy. So you use this suitability, feasibility, and acceptability criteria to evaluate proposed strategy. So I hope you're clear on the questions. They're not an exact replica of strategic business leader exam, but why are we doing these questions then? We're doing them to consolidate and reinforce our understanding of the models and the frameworks that are examinable in SBL. We can put them in context and we can develop as a part of baby step approach. We can develop some examination technique. Now, currently what you're supposed to do, these are the two requirements that we would be tackling. And for tackling these requirements, this is a 3-page case study that you have, right? Page 1, page 2, and page 3. These are the 3 pages case study, and then you have the requirements of the 4th page. Now, what you need to do is you have to produce an answer plan. Now, when I say you have to produce an answer plan, it is not supposed to be a full-fledged answer. I'm not expecting a full-fledged answer from you. All I'm expecting is to produce an answer plan. And when I say produce an answer plan, what I'm saying is you have to perform 2 steps. For both part A and B, you have to perform 2 steps, step 1 and step 2. Step 1 is to identify relevant issues from the scenario. And step 2 is to develop the issues or to discuss their relevance to the scenario. For example, just as an example, right? You have this example. The first example is, one example that could be, for example, you conclude that the marketing of the entity is very nice. You conclude that the marketing or the promotional campaigns of the entity are really effective. This is what you've been able to identify from the scenario. Now, this is the first step. What is the second step? To develop the issue. How is that going to help? How is that going to help? That's going to be helpful in terms of, fixing the issues. That's going to be helpful. So you would be talking about the customer attraction. For example, you can attract more customers towards your business. You can have more customers. You can add on your market share that can help you with market penetration. So that's basically how you develop the identified goal. So you would be doing these 2 steps for both part A and part B. I hope you're clear on what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to go about it. If there are any ambiguities, if there are any confusions, please feel free to put up your questions, because this is a 30 minutes exercise which you would be doing, and we would then be resuming our class after 30 minutes, and I would be having input from each of you.